Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Planning and Development meeting, January the 7th, 2021 at the 5:30 p.m. We have one item to discuss tonight. It's CPR 2021-01, a resolution of the Gary Common Council supporting a moratorium on charter schools in Gary, Indiana, sponsored by William Godwin, Councilman of the First District, Cozy Weatherspoon, Councilman of the Second District, Mary Brown, Councilwoman of the Third District, Ty Atkins, Councilwoman of the Fourth District, Linda Barnes Caldwell, Councilwoman of the Fifth District, Ronald Brewer, Councilman at Large, Cloris Lay, Councilman at Large. Tonight we have with us Councilmember William Godwin, President William Godwin, Vice President Ty Atkins, Fifth District Linda Barnes Caldwell. I see our attorney Renzo Williams is on also, and I don't see any other council members at this time. At this time, we will have an overview that will be done by President Godwin at this time.
Thank you, Chairman Brewer, and to the people of Gary and the Gary Community School Corporation and all of the alumni, current students, and stakeholders. The spirit of this resolution is to ensure that in response to the overwhelming support for the Gary Community School Corporation in the latest referendum, that we in fact make sure that they continue to succeed, and that we do everything to ensure that the enrollment not only stabilizes but increases, and that the funding not only stabilizes but increases, and that in every way the reputation, the academic performance of the Gary Community School Corporation continues to improve. As many of you know, there has been an effort to create an additional charter school. There's no other way to put it. It's not a private school. It's not a traditional public school. It's a charter school that will require approval by relevant charter bodies. I don't think, and I guess I'm joined by many of my colleagues, that that is a good thing. I think we need to limit the number of charter schools in this city. We are sixth in the nation in terms of charter schools. That has continued to detract from the enrollment and the financial stability of the school corporation. So we cannot at once, quote unquote, fully support the Gary Community School Corporation, while at the same time have uncoordinated and even secret meetings with prospects to develop a charter school that will do just the opposite of supporting the Gary Community School Corporation. So we know that in 2016, this body did a moratorium or resolution asking that there be no more charter schools. And it seems relevant yet again, given recent announcements, to reiterate that position and to support what has already been publicly addressed in terms of Senator Eddie Melton's upcoming legislation in Indianapolis for a moratorium on charter schools in the city of Gary. I'm going to ask my colleague, Vice President Ty Atkins, councilperson of the 4th District, if she could read the resolution and offer any of her additional thoughts on it. And of course, then we can have questions and dialogue. Thank you.
Mr. President, I will. I'm just trying to find my notes. Give me 1 second.
Okay, no problem.
My apologies for that, but thank you. I will first read the resolution as stated. So again, this resolution is number 2021-01. It is a resolution of the Gary Common Council supporting the moratorium on charter schools within the city of Gary, Indiana. Whereas the city of Gary overwhelmingly voted in November 2020, passing the referendum by 60.32% to reemphasize the support of traditional public education at the Gary Community School Corporation. Whereas charter schools operate independently of locally elected school boards and the accountability that they provide. Whereas local accountability is essential to ensure that schools are responsive to the needs of both the children of their community in which they serve. Whereas the charter school system is creating a separate and unequal opportunity for success due to the selective nature in which charter schools recruit students. Whereas to date, data shows that charter schools have not consistently outperformed the Gary Community School Corporation. Whereas at least 3 of the charter schools, which started in Gary, Indiana, have closed. Whereas over the past 14 years, the Gary Community School Corporation lost over $250 million in state support, which greatly undermines the district's ability to provide students with the educational services of which they are both entitled and deserve. Whereas the Gary Common Council believes public schools are fundamental to our democracy. Whereas the Gary Common Council is focused on supporting efforts to maintain and enhance the academic and physical performance of the Gary Community School Corporation. Whereas the Gary Common Council welcomes Purdue and/or Indiana University to collaborate with the Gary Community School Corporation and our entire educational ecosystem in expanding academic and achievement opportunities for all children within the city of Gary, in particular students within the Gary Community School Corporation. Whereas the Gary Common Council believe that children who attend schools operated by the Gary Community School Corporation deserve the support of their churches, government officials, neighbors, leaders, parents, teachers, and all stakeholders in creating solutions to address the school system's past and future. Therefore, be it resolved that the Gary Common Council supports efforts to place a moratorium on the creation of additional charter schools within the city of Gary. Be it further resolved, a copy of this resolution will be sent to the presidents and boards of directors of Purdue and Indiana University and the leadership of Gary Community School Corporation. A copy of this resolution will also be sent to State Senator Eddie Milton and the entire Gary legislative delegation to support any legislation that calls for a charter school moratorium during the 2021 Indiana legislative session. This particular resolution is sponsored by Gary Common Council President William Godwin, 4th District Representative Ty Atkins, I think all members of the council, correct? I don't have the updated version that lists us all out, but I knew all members of the council except for
Councilman Williams.
6th District Councilman Dwight Williams. So thank you for allowing me to read the resolution. I think it's important for the public to understand the verbiage and language that's associated in the spirit of this. But as a Purdue grad myself, not only am I a graduate of the Gary Community School Corporation, but I am also a graduate of Purdue West Lafayette. And I understand the background, the educational institution that Purdue holds, the amount of curriculum in depth that they have instilled with the existing charter schools that they have created in Indianapolis, I believe Fort Wayne, and the other Purdue Polytechnic institutions across the state of Indiana. More importantly for me, though, as a public school graduate, I think it's important to listen to the body of this community, which, as we initially stated in the opening of the resolution, voted overwhelmingly to support the Gary Community School Corporation. Though there are struggles that's in the past, the community has spoken. And it is our purpose and our point to make sure that we advocate on behalf of the community and put our resources to support whatever we can do to get this particular community school corporation back in good standing. I believe that all elements of government, whether it's legislative, executive, shall also act in that same spirit and listening to the constituents of the city of Gary. I think one important piece that was in the resolution that we need to reiterate is the fact that we welcome Purdue University, Indiana University, any other institution, to get involved in our current education system, to incorporate whatever STEM programming and curriculum, though that has been addressed and recognized that there is a need for it, to enhance the current structure. I think to abandon what we have institutionalized here and abandon what we are looking to develop here going forward will be disgraceful as leaders within this community. And so I am in fully support of creating some type of resolution, and also supporting whatever legislation is coming down the pipeline from our state representatives to restrict any ongoing. And I also just want to let you guys know that I'm someone who follow the numbers. They say men lie, women lie, but numbers don't, right? And so that's in the words of Jay-Z, if you didn't know. And so if you look at the data in terms of performance between our Gary Community School Corporation as well as charters overall that has been initiated within the particular city over the last few years, they're not overwhelmingly outperforming our public school system, right? And so there is a gap, and my understanding from how I would take that has nothing to do with public versus charter, but the resources that are available. So why not take the resources and fund that and create the curriculum that is needed to get our particular children to the next level within our current infrastructure, rather than abandoning them and then creating something totally new and not leveraging what we currently have. So thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to speak. That is my opinion. And again, I am speaking on behalf of being a proud Gary Community School graduate, as well as a proud Purdue graduate as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. I have to agree with everything that has been said thus far. 60% of the residents supported the school referendum, and that says something, and it says something that we should not ignore that. So when we start talking about a charter school that's going to come, and it's this high-tech charter school, what was these conversations that during the time we would hit all these open forums, the discussion for the referendum, and we was talking about the schools? I think at that time it was prime time to talk about what was the administration was exploring, what they wanted to do. We didn't find out anything till now. We in a new year, and now there's talks about possible charter school coming inside of the city. I'm going to be on the resident side. The 60+% that voted, went to the polls and voted and said that they want to put their dollars, not just their mouths, their dollars behind the public school. And I think that's where we should be also, and continue to support our Gary Community School Corporation. Is there any other comments from any other council members at this time? I see we're joined by 6th District Councilman Dwight Williams at this time. President Godwin, is there anything else?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm here. Hello.
Yes, Councilman Williams, did you
Yes,
want to speak at this time?
Yeah, I just joined in. Do you think you could quickly, before the next meeting, bring me up to speed to what was just being said?
Well, they just gave the overview of the resolution at this time, and basically it's pretty much what you have had in front of you, but it just basically outlined that the extra thing that's been added, that the charter schools have not outperformed the Gary Public School, and over 60+% of the residents supported the school referendum.
Okay. So looking at the resolution, I did have a conversation with President Godwin. The drafting of the resolution I had a little problem with, this, which is why I did not want to sponsor. But we did have a conversation in relation to some of the verbiage in that draft. It is attacking the charter school systems, and I am totally not in favor of adding another charter school within our city limits due to the referendum. What are we going to be doing to look into how the school corporation? Hello, Mr. Brewer, are you on the phone?
Please proceed. All right.
What are we going to be doing as far as looking into how the referendum, uh, residents did vote for that, they are for it. Um, what about the school corporation? What are they going to do to in favor of the referendum as far as bringing us to speed to what's going to happen within the academics and the curriculum within the school corporation?
So I can answer that in two parts. I know they recently, I believe this week, put out the applications for the referendum ambassadors or the Gary Community School Corporation ambassadors. And so we definitely want to disseminate that among residents, especially those who are interested in education, uh, former teachers, parents, just generally interested people, folks who might have curriculum and instruction, pedagogy backgrounds, or people who may understand about administration, classroom management. We want to make sure, and of course, not only that, but the wraparound services, which we know are absolutely important to ensure student success on those soft skills, communication, teamwork, timeliness, dressing for success, all of those things that will make all the students have a total package, if you will. So I think that's the start, by ensuring that the ambassadors are representative of all of our districts and of all the talent and skills and interests and concerns of the residents. In addition, I have asked Dr. McNulty to come at least quarterly to our council meetings to update us and, of course, the general public on the performance of the school corporation, not just enrollment or finances, but academic performance. So we certainly will hold them to that and look forward to that over the course of this year and into the future. Those are just two, I think, off the bat ways that we can make sure we're working in tandem with them, but also we're keeping informed about how things are progressing.
Okay. Understanding that no child is alike within our great city. What about the students that actually are a little bit have a lesser advantage? So we're talking about those students that are considered remedial or special education. What is the school corporation going to do to bring them up to speed?
Well, I will say that that's something we can definitely ask Dr. McNulty in terms of the particular strategies that they're going to be implementing around their curricula. What we do know is that what has been proposed is really for your higher achiever, in terms of basically the Purdue Polytechnic model, is for your gifted or exceptional student. I believe our corporation counsel is one of the supreme gifted students at Westside. I'm messing with him. And so they are going to be targeting that population, folks like Councilwoman Atkins, and I'm sure yourself, who went on to Purdue and Indiana University. So we want to make sure that, and that's part of the issue, I think, Councilman Williams, is that, charter schools have far greater flexibility and luxury in terms of who they admit and who they retain. Whereas the traditional public school must be open to everyone, right? And has to have, whether it's an IEP or what have you, has to have a plan of action for every student, whatever their educational capacity is or background or challenges. And that's not a luxury. They don't have luxury just to say, parents have to be involved, or these are the certain GPA or testing requirements to be here. And so I think that's why it's so important that we make sure that there is a level of quality and accessibility with the traditional public school system, because we want to make sure that all the children, especially those on both ends, right, those who need exceptional supports, whether it's for needing remedial educational enhancements, or those who are on the higher end, right, who may not be as challenged enough, which is why I was so glad to see that in the referendum, it included not only STEM, and I like STEAM, adding the arts in there, but it also included the arts and culture and extracurricular enhancements, which we know that there's a connection between music and mathematics, right? And so it's important that we educate the left and the right brain, and that we have activities where children and students can express themselves. So that was a long answer, but I think that the the bottom line is that as we strengthen the public school system, which serves everybody, we can help them on both ends.
Okay, so which goes back to my original comment within the resolution, and it reads, whereas the Gary Common Council welcomes Purdue and Indiana University to partner with the Gary Community School Corporation to create a STEM school. The rest of the resolution is actually speaking very negative about the charter school system, and I agree that we shouldn't allow any more charter schools within our city. Do the three of you, because it looks like it's just, there's Linda, the four of you, do you believe, 1, 2, 3, yeah, the four of us, I believe. Do you feel comfortable with this language here as far as what I just read, as far as in relations to Purdue and Indiana University Northwest, or Indiana University, period?
I'm sorry, Councilman Williams, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if I may.
Do you feel comfortable?
Well, first.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, let me correct you, because I think that you do not have the correct version of the resolution that you're referring to.
Okay, because the last version I looked at had a lot of problems within they need to be corrected, but go ahead.
I'm not sure about what problems that you're referencing, but we did have that line that you just quoted is not in the resolution. So I want to make sure that you have the appropriate version of that first. And I believe this was submitted on Monday, the 4th. And I think President Godwin sent it out to all members of the council for reference.
And what I want to say,
I had.
Yeah, Councilman Williams, what happened, there was I think one came out maybe from the clerk's office.
Yeah.
Around 2:30.
Yeah.
And that's probably the one you have.
Yeah.
It's been removed then.
Yeah, the most updated one. I apologize. We talked earlier. The most updated.
We talked earlier about that.
Yes, the most updated version says, and I will read it for you.
And let me send it to you. I'm sorry, President Godwin. Yeah. Actually, Councilman Williams, I'll forward it to you too, okay? Just so that it could be at the top of your email thread.
Okay.
Because I think it came out right before our 6 o'clock meeting. I believe that's what happened.
Yeah.
Probably like at 6:01 or 5:55 or something like that.
So how does it read now?
I'm going to read it now. Whereas the Gary Common Council welcomes Purdue and/or Indiana University to collaborate with the Gary Community School Corporation and our entire educational ecosystem in expanding academic achievement opportunities for all children within the city of Gary, in particular students within the Gary Community School Corporation. So that's what that line now says.
All right. So that was the only problem I had with this draft. So as I said earlier, I am in agreement with no more charter schools coming within our city. But that was the only problem. So I have a poor draft. So thank you. And Councilwoman Atkins, you're going to send me the most current draft?
Yes, I'm sending it right now.
Is there additional comments from any other council members before we move on to public?
So are we considering Purdue and Indiana University as part of the problem or solution to the charter school system?
Well, I would say that it is not so. The inclusion of Purdue and Indiana University is simply a response to the proposal that's when I first heard of it, in the State of the City address, right? That basically, and now we know more, that it would emulate Purdue Polytechnic. So, obviously Purdue has been starting these charter schools around the state, principally in central Indiana, Indianapolis, and just 2 of them, one in Broad Ripple and one in another part of the city. And so it's not about them sort of being the solution. It's just recognizing that we know that there's been conversations, or at least reported conversations with those institutions. And we want to make sure that they know that this resolution is not saying we don't want Purdue or we don't want IU. We want both Purdue and IU, but we want them to collaborate, partner with the Gary Community School Corporation to do the kinds of work that they might otherwise do through a charter school.
Okay, which is what I would like to see as well. Okay, I'll wait for that new draft. And again, as I said, I'm in agreement with no more charter schools coming to the city of Gary.
All right, thank you, Councilman Williams. All right, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is there any other comments from council members before we go to the public? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak at this time? Seeing no one from the public, public portion is now closed. If there's no other discussion with council members, we will get ready to end this meeting here, and we will pick up for the special council meeting starting at 6 p.m. Thank everyone for joining. I will see you on at the next meeting, the special council meeting at 6 p.m. Thank you. Good night.